And Putin likes all of this too, because he even enjoys this seemingly shameful war for Russia between Israel and Iran. And he understands that this is the kind of war where he can manage to hide in the shadow of a major Middle Eastern disaster and quietly go about his own maniacal business here. Well, we see that Israel is smashing Iran, but Iran is responding extremely harshly and, let's say, is snapping back skillfully. Of course, the Jewish bombs have torn apart the obscurantist comfort of Iran. Cities are burning, and perhaps Iran's nuclear contraptions are burning too, at least according to Israeli politicians. But that's not the point. Later on, it will become clear what was actually destroyed, what is really burning, and what is just a play of imagination, those endless mirages that constantly arise in the minds of politicians, as we know. But let's note that these very first Jewish bombs have also punched holes in the Kremlin towers. Botox has suffered, and the very bricks that Putin had long cherished as his own little NATO has twisted in pain, though, under the pretense that it is an economic, not a military alliance. And it became clear that no friendship with Moscow, no alliance with Moscow, thanks to these bombings, to the very first bombing, let's put it that way, offers absolutely no protection or salvation from anything. After all, it was only recently, in 2025, that Iran and Russia signed the Brotherhood for a Century Treaty, sealing their political affection, calling this treaty a comprehensive political partnership in which both sides essentially pledged to help and protect each other. This military political coitus between the two obscurantist regimes was passionate, it was rhythmic, but that was up until that fateful night when Israel started the war. It must be said that for several years, Iran had been tearing shaheds and shells from its own black heart, supplying the orc battalions in Ukraine. Iranian hackers were hammering European websites and networks, while various turban-wearing terrorists carried out delicate assignments for the Kremlin, blowing things up, burning, and cutting whoever needed to be. But then those first Jewish bombs started to fall, and once again, the Russians abandoned their own, not even bothering to explain the reason for their swinish behavior. And all these agreements, all these BRICS alliances, which, by the way, Iran also ceremoniously joined, not long ago turned out, in the end, to be nonsense. At most, as it turned out, the only thing Russia is capable of is making a couple of, well, carefully worded statements. Masha Zakharova put on a display of sorrow on her Kunstkugel, but she didn't dare to get angry at or be rude to Israel. Once again, Medvedev was showing off. And of course, Putin dramatically fell silent, dramatically and cunningly fell silent. And this whole idea of an anti-Western brotherhood of all sorts of backward, cannibalistic, bloodthirsty countries has somehow fizzled out. And the Russian Federation, right in front of all the other BRICS nuts, the very Russian Federation that was supposed to act decisively in the event of an Israeli-Iranian conflict, well, to put it bluntly, just swallowed it. Undoubtedly, throughout this whole story, the Russian trace is significant and vivid. And you understand, right, that in the Kremlin, in the General Staff, in the FSB, and in the Duma, there is a stable layer of schizophrenics who are running through the corridors, demanding that Russia enter the war on Iran's side. Well, the Kremlin feels awkward. It's clear that the Kremlin set up Iran by promising protection, and that's why Iran became so brazen. It became brazen solely because of Moscow's promises of protection, up to and including, let's say, very, very provocative behavior with Trump. In the Duma, there was even an idea to create some sort of parliamentary company to send it to Iran. But in reality, after getting acquainted with the penetrating power and accuracy of Israeli missiles, all the volunteers immediately disappeared. In general, all of Iran's troubles, misfortunes, and nightmares are directly connected to Russia. because the establishment of this total obscurantism in Iran was a major victory for the USSR, because the Persians were confidently moving toward civilization and could have become a very prosperous and vibrant part of that civilization, given all the fabulous wealth of their country. And in that regard, they really had quite a lot going for them. And we shouldn't lump them in with, let's put it this way, the real Iran shouldn't be lumped in with the obscurantists. Because, first of all, it's not the Arab world at all. They're not Arabs, they're Persians. And the official language there is Persian Farsi. Listen, Omar Khayyam, the utterly charming Omar Khayyam, was a Persian, just like Hafez. In other words, Iran is home to those very Aryans that today's Russians try to associate themselves with. And before them, the Hitlerites did as well. And at one time, the Soviet Union, in order to halt Iran's progress towards civilization, brought that half-crazed fanatic Ayatollah Khomeini in a sealed train car. And let's not forget that Iran holds 16% of the world's total gas reserves and 10% of its oil reserves. Those are huge, colossal figures. But nevertheless, what happened, happened. Iran became brazen, its proud posturing and its uranium hexafluoride production. This is a typical Russian trace. The Russians promised to provide protection, and believing in the power of their Kremlin friend and his patronage, Iran grew arrogant, disregarded its commitments to never acquire nuclear weapons, and the Ayatollahs decided to ignore all deals, all sanctions, and to become a nuclear power as well. In response, Israel began relentlessly pounding Iran, trying to knock both the uranium hexafluoride and the arrogance out of the Ayatollahs, and at the same time shatter their faith in Russian protection. Russia, meanwhile, to be honest, no matter how unpleasant it may be for you to hear this, keeps noisily and fussily sucking up now to America, now to Israel. Honestly, I don't even know who deserves more attention first. All of it is troubling Russian patriots. And take a close look at my Telegram channel. Besides the entire chronology of the Israeli-Iranian war, there are also some very interesting reactions posted there. In particular, there's the reaction from those very Aladdin's bust shoes up to Aladdin saying that it's necessary to mobilize 1 million riflemen because only they can save the Russian world. And indeed, overall, the wave of events is growing. It's clear that this war between Iran and Israel is not something that will be over in a minute. And of course, it should end with the overthrow of all these Ayatollahs and the return of a magnificent country. I must say, Iran is a magnificent country to the civilized community. It's clear that all this nightmare, which is already teetering somewhere on the brink of nuclear catastrophe, so far global, regional, but quite capable of escalating into something bigger. It's clear that all these nightmares are also a consequence of the fact that a circle of deranged old men in the Kremlin decided to bring global reality in line with 17th century maps and the ravings of the graphomaniac Dugin. Moreover, just take a look at my Telegram channel. I posted the cover of the magazine Crocodile, I think from 1968. And you'll see to what extent the Russians, or rather the USSR, had developed this anti-Semitic, anti-Israeli rhetoric, how these images were invented. Invented, by the way, quite aptly, maliciously, graphically, and professionally. Propaganda today doesn't know how to work like that anymore, but I suspect they'll use all the old manuals anyway. And of course, we'll continue to defend the Iranian side as their closest like-minded allies and supporters.